Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Talking Points with Preferred Health Magazine. Today we'll be speaking with actress Diane Farr, best known for her standout television roles in Rescue Me, Numbers, and Fire Country. She'll be opening up about her role as Division Chief Sharon Leone on Fire Country, the impact of the Los Angeles fires, and empowering women on a global scale. Stay tuned.
Kind of just in kicking off our interview, I wanted to first ask you how you and your family are doing since you were so close to where the fires were in LA. I know you did record some of it on your social media, and I wanted to just check in and just see how you were doing with all of that, everything. I'm in New York, and for me, it's we all feel so disconnected, on the other coast. We want to help, but we also feel like we don't know what else to do.
Yeah, I honestly I have the same feeling in town.
Hmm.
Uh, it's close, but
Hmm.
everything I own is okay, and
Hmm.
everybody I love is okay. And then you're looking at your neighbors, thinking, "What can I do?" So we
Hmm.
give money and we give time, and then
Right.
you buy bottled water
Hmm.
until we have
Yeah.
like a better feeling that our systems in place are working.
Hmm. No, that makes sense. Thanks for, kind of giving us updates on your social media on how you were doing. And I know you're from New York originally. You moved out to California. I kind of just wanted to jump right in to Fire Country, if you don't mind.
Yes.
When you first heard about the show or you first were offered a role on the show, was there a part of you that was like, I already did Rescue Me, big fan of, by the way. Why would I do another show? Like, I know you did Numbers in between and other projects, but what made you take one look at the script and be like, I'm going to do it? I don't care if I have to, do a fire themed show again. I'm just so curious if it was the mother son relationship. I kind of just wanted to get into it and find out what made you say yes to another, firefighter themed series.
When I looked at it, I wasn't looking at the fact that it was firefighter themed. I have
Hmm.
what I call the 5 Ps when I
Hmm.
choose a job. It's the person I'm playing, the character, what's on the page, what the script is, the pay, the people involved, and the place it shoots. So I realized that if you have less than three, you can really like become miserable on the job of your dreams. And far and away, when I read the script, what I saw was the script was amazing.
Hmm.
I did not see the turn coming that
Right.
Sharon was Bodhi's mother. So, I've read a script
Mhm.
probably every day for
Mhm.
5 years. If I'm surprised by it, you just have enough faith in the writers that the story will be amazing. Where the franchise is set is almost secondary.
Mhm.
So my first love for the project was the writing.
We really like here at Preferred Health is guess what we write a lot of articles about menopause. I've done a lot of them. And
Ah,
that was a major storyline for your character, Sharon. So I wanted to ask you, what were your thoughts on that when you first heard that this was going to be her health battle that, hello, a lot of us are going through or have gone through or are going through?
yeah.
It was really something we never have seen before in prime time, honestly. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about that, if that's okay with you, and kind of find
I
out,
love
like,
this. So
yeah, let's just dive right in. Tell me about, what was it like for you to play a character who's like, hi, I'm going through menopause, Mhm.
it was
Me too,
my
by the way.
it was
Mhm.
my request. I think
Really?
sign of a great showrunner is an interest in what the actors want to see their characters do. Our showrunner, Tia Napolitano, is the most collaborative showrunner I've ever worked with. And she invites us in at the beginning of every season to share with her and all the writers in the room what we hope to do personally as an actor for the character.
Mhm.
And I think most of those storylines get weaved into the plots and what they've been coming up with. And I went in and asked, can we please show menopause on network television? Primarily because the the conversation about menopause has been so muddied. It sort of seems like it's ancient, antiquated women who go through menopause right before they die, which is 100%
Right.
not the case. It is 100% of women who
Of
live past
course.
35 who get to do this. And the thing that I thought might really open people up to the conversation was that Sharon and Vince are still such a loving, vibrant couple. So the fact that she still at least appears to be in a romantic relationship, if not sexually active, that she's still got a lot of fire, that she's still physically capable of carrying a hose and leading others. I was like, this is where we want to start a menopausal conversation. So my kids, I have twin daughters. They are 16. And last summer we went to Africa to bring period panties to girls. So I had my daughters who were raised in LA and I was raised in New York. And then we had a bunch, I mean, like hundreds of girls in Uganda, in the city and in the suburbs. And when we would start every session, they were very embarrassed to talk about their period, which is exactly like what it was for me in high school. So that's three different cities in three different parts of the world. And there has been absolutely no progress in our ability to discuss women's menstruation. And I thought
So true.
it's absolutely not different at menopause. Like
Mhm.
the next generation of women that I work with, the younger actors on my show, we can talk about periods more easily than I ever did at work when I was coming up. So my hope is to bring menopause into that conversation on screen and off. And I think menopause is about to have its moment. Like it's just become a non-scary word.
Right. It's almost become trendy in a way because now when you turn on so many shows, talk shows in particular, they have kind of like celebrity doctors talking about it. A lot of OBGYNs are now much more vocal about it.
Yes.
There's just a lot of conversation about it. And what was the feedback like from fans of the show about this storyline? Or did anybody come up to you and say, like, thank you for bringing this up? I'm just curious.
Yes, there was a lot of thank you for bringing this up. First, it started with my own friends, like people
Mm,
that me personally, who I think felt comfortable to say, I'm so glad you're doing this. And I got more DMs in my Instagram than I've ever gotten about anything else. And I
wow.
started sending them to Tia Napolitano saying, look, look. And then people started to comment what you were saying. I don't think we've ever seen this on network television. And it wasn't super shameful and it wasn't a quiet conversation with a doctor. It was me and a peer at work. And then how do I want to deal with it moving forward? How do I bring it into my marriage? How does it come up? So I am so proud of many things on Fire Country. That one's really close to my heart.
Can you tell me a little bit more about this trip that you did to Africa? What else did you discuss with the women there in terms of, women's health concerns? And what did you personally get from the trip?
So we do this 10-year-old trip in our family. It's like the myth of what the
Hmm.
kids get to pick. Each kid got to pick a trip for the whole family. And they spend years doing research on it, which was my way of getting out of watching crappy kids TV. So we watch all these documentaries and they'd each pick a place. And my daughter Sawyer picked Uganda really early because they have silverback gorillas. And we didn't realize till we booked the trip when she was 10 that you have to be 15 in order to get a license to go into the forest where the gorillas are,
Mm,
which kind of makes sense. I thought it was for the protection of the gorillas because,
right.
if my kids start whining or crying or they're tired and we scare the
Right.
gorillas, we could put them in danger. But the
Mm,
truth is, the Windy National Park is so difficult to trek through unless you're 15. They didn't think you could climb far enough in. So by the
oh.
time we were getting to go, my kids were in high school.
Mhm.
And I met another mom who was running a nonprofit in Uganda. And it really felt like Uganda was missing a lot of things that the rest of East Africa has because they tax donations. There's nothing that you can give to that company, like Tom's does not bring their shoes there because the government wants a tax, even though it's a donation. So
Wow.
it's not just that you have to find people willing to donate the products and people on the ground willing to distribute them. You also have to pay what I would call a ransom to the government. So I wondered if we could do it because once I learned how bad period poverty was in that section of the world. So uh, Uganda used to be part of the British colonial
Mm,
colonization. So boarding schools are really uh, prevalent there. Everybody goes at every level of economics.
mm,
And if the girls do not have period panties, there's a huge dropout rate in school. So the
Wow.
girls are forced to leave school between like 12 and 15, and they are completely insolvent. They have no
Oh
way to make a
God.
living, and this leads to child marriage. So it's a
Mm,
horrendous cycle that can be helped with the smallest amount of care. So my daughters at first were really like, we're going to go talk about periods in
right.
large high schools. And I was like, we're going to go talk about the products. And this is what the
Mhm,
nonprofit does. I wrote to Carla Welch, who is a famous celebrity stylist.
mhm,
She does nothing but couture. And she took all of that
mhm.
agency and built the period company to specifically make period products inexpensive enough that any American could buy them, that they could be carried in.
Wow.
I asked her if she would give us the products at cost, and she did. And she doesn't know me. It was just like, yes, it was a whole series of women supporting women, a female that runs the nonprofit with her son, Carla that runs this company with another woman, and me and my daughters. And each place we went to, we would start off talking about hygiene, how you use the products. Every girl was given two pairs of period panties because if we imagine there's no washing machines, so you can wear one pair for 24 hours, rinse it, leave it out to dry in the sun, and wear the other pair while it's drying.
Mhm.
They last 8 years.
They're amazing. I've worn them too. They're just
Oh,
amazing. And I'm so glad that you're part, I mean, you and your daughters to be part of that for and do this for these women. That's incredible. You all have such great hearts.
it was so fulfilling. I
Mhm.
mean, we
I'm
went
sure.
the original idea was to see
Mhm.
what Uganda could offer us. We
Right.
get so much more out of this trip than we ever could have imagined. And then my daughters go to boarding school because I'm filming in Canada and I wasn't going to be there enough. So my kids are half Asian. So here's my half Asian and half Caucasian kids with all these African girls, and they're having the same experience. And
Right.
it really like, between the kids, there was no difference. There was no classism, there was no race, there was no politics. It's the best thing I ever did for my kids. And, it was us being of service to someone else. It was completely of service to us.
Oh, wow. Would you ever do any kind of this activism here in the States, or you're not sure about like bringing it to maybe areas that can really use it or to homeless shelters? Have you done any kind of that activism through women's healthcare and period talk here in LA, I guess in your case?
I think what I have to do now as a
Mhm.
mom is look for the kids' interest and follow that. So
Mm,
hope at this moment, even with the fires in Los Angeles, when I was able to fly back down and get my son, I could see he was a little rattled. His nervous system was not regulated yet. And teenagers don't say, Mom, I don't feel good.
I have two girls, so I know. Yeah. Mhm.
It comes out sort of sideways, their needs. So the first thing I did was ask a friend who was she's a chef. It's welicious.com. She was getting hundreds of donations for both firefighters and people who lost their homes. And she just needed help unpacking boxes of donations. So the first thing I did was take him there because the moment I could get him out of worrying about us and taking care of someone else, it calmed the nervous system. So what I want to do right now is just hear the inkling of what the kids have an interest in doing for good and chase that.
Mhm. That's great. I love that. And you all sound so philanthropic. Are there any other charities that are so near and dear to your heart?
Drunk driving has
Mhm.
been something that has haunted me for years. I lost a friend's child was decapitated by a drunk driver
Man,
years
I'm so
ago
sorry.
in New
Mhm.
York.
Mm,
So that was one that we
awful.
really spend a lot of time on. And when I was
Mm,
growing up, probably much like you, there was
mhm.
MAD, Moms
Yeah.
Against Drivers. So when I got married, we had all the donations going to organizations teaching kids about not driving while drunk.
Mhm.
Um, what else have we done? I go to a public school in Los Angeles. So I
Mhm.
would say for the last 10 years in LA, most of my activism has been around the public school system.
Oh, wow. And in order to do a show like Fire Country, you need to really, it also tells the point of view from inmates. Have you ever worked directly with inmates or did you meet with any real life inmates who were involved in fire protection and fire safety, just like the show is? And if you have, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Ironically, when I first moved to Los Angeles, my pay the rent job when I was
Mhm.
looking for acting work was
Right.
teaching acting in a maximum security men's prison.
Oh my
So
gosh. Wow.
I, it's
Mhm.
it's so strange that this job came later, but at the time there was a grant program. The three strikes law was still in effect. So there was this group of men who were charged as minors, but had already committed three offenses. So they were in prison for life, but they were not old enough to go into a big house. So I had men between 16 and 21 who were supposed to be in prison for life already. And as
Wow.
you can imagine, three strikes when you're that young speaks a little bit to economics, speaks to what kind of chance did these people really have to fit into society. I don't think we're just born bad. It was
Mhm.
very clear when I got in those classrooms. The most resounding thing to me,
Mhm.
most of the classes would be 10 to 12 men, and 8 out of 10 could not read. I had
Wow.
never met any adult children in my path of life that didn't know
Right.
how to read. So
Yeah.
it was so clear that we had failed them as a society so early. Thank God the three strikes law is gone now. But the program I was doing was trying to give people a way to express their feelings. I was not supposed to do improv with them. That was one of the things written in the charter of what I was doing, but nobody understood that they couldn't read. So it wasn't like I could give them scene study material. They were very fast memorizers because they probably spent all their time in school pretending
Right.
to read.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
what I got from that experience is that there is no rehabilitation through punishment. Being in
Mm.
jail is a punishment. To punish them on top of a punishment just leads to defeat. So any program that can teach you a skill, construction, firefighting, plumbing, anything that could give you a skill where you have a chance to fit in society would be welcome. But firefighting lets you do for people what they cannot do for themselves.
Right.
Today, I look at evacuation as privilege. We
Mhm.
get to leave when the fire is encroaching because there are other people willing to run into the fire while we are running out. And I think this system in the prison is how all of our reformation should be based because we're giving them a duty and we're making them an honored part of society.
Were on, you would know this better than me. I actually just thought about this question. With the LA firefighters, were any inmates involved in trying to help put those out in particular, or is that program only in Northern California? I'm just curious, like, were they actually involved in helping with everything going on with the fires that spread, a few weeks ago? Were the inmates part of that? Would you happen to know offhand?
I do. They absolutely are a part of it.
Mhm.
Cal Fire is based in Northern California, but what Cal Fire does is wildland fires. So
Right,
much
right.
of television, like Rescue
Mhm.
Me, structural fires, like
Right.
Inside the City and Chicago Fire.
Mhm.
Cal Fire does wildland fires, and that's where the prison inmates are working with. So
Mhm.
my understanding was that there were 1,000 prison inmates working alongside Cal Fire, the LAFD, and then all the other cities in California and the states and the countries that came in to help. The other thing that the prison inmates do that I'm aware of is they do the cleanup.
Mhm.
So after the fire is put out or it's contained to a very large percentage, I don't know if it's 80 or 90%, there is this massive cleanup to make sure that it doesn't reignite and that the land can sort of regrow. And it is the absolute most thankless work.
Oh,
And
for sure.
that's
Yeah.
what the prison inmates are often doing.
Right. Now you travel a lot for work. You film in Canada, you're based in LA. I'm assuming you still come to New York. I'm from Long Island, by the way. I'm in Huntington right now as I'm talking to you.
Ah,
Um, yeah, I know you were out in Stony Brook at one point, and I know some of your bio. So yeah, you're talking to a Long Islander. Um, what, it's harder. It can be hard to travel. How do you kind of take care of your body, mind, and soul when you're traveling a lot? Um, Yeah, I'd love to hear either skincare, health-wise, vitamins, what makes you you to keep you going?
I love traveling. I
Mhm.
don't know what it is about my story in this lifetime, but I think packing is a
Mhm.
really good start. I'm not a last minute packer. I love a
Mhm.
carry-on bag and nothing else. So I make sure I have all the things that make me feel good.
Right.
And when I was raising my kids, I taught them packing the way people teach kids to make their bed. I
Wow.
taught them packing like as a part of their hygiene for
Right.
traveling, of how do you want to keep yourself well while you're on the move.
Mhm.
And I think the thing that I need the most is to make sure I can sleep when I'm
Mhm.
traveling. I can go through a bad plane ride just like everybody
Right.
else. Now I've started to schedule time when I get where I'm going to just do nothing.
Oh,
And
wow.
if you're from Long Island, I would go
Mhm.
home to New York and I would fill every slot with someone I thought I was supposed to see. It took me a
Mhm.
couple of years to realize plan things with them that I want to do while I'm there.
Mhm.
I don't have to just be at dinner. I can go to the theater with them if that's what I'm hoping to do. And now I've realized to book out some slots for some downtime on my own.
Right. I love that. Now, you've really done a lot in your career, some major, major shows. You've guest hosted shows. At one point, you were even, I read somewhere you had a card line at one point. I don't know if you still have that. Like you've just done a lot of different things. What is some of the best career advice that you've ever received out, or a mantra that you just take with you that, inspires you and motivates you to and taps into your creativity?
I think now the thing that I've realized is that joy and hobbies are
Mhm.
really vital for work. When I
Mhm.
was younger, I thought I was supposed to take off time from work to do a hobby so that I knew I was still having a life. I didn't realize that the things that I do as hobbies often feed the creativity at
Mm.
work. Like
Right.
not just indirectly, but I started motorcycle riding at 47. I was
That's
getting
awesome. You're a badass. You're a badass. That's awesome. You're way cooler than me.
I was getting a divorce. You
Uh,
kind of feel like you want to do something wild. I had three kids. I was not going disco dancing. There were no drugs to be had in my late 40s. So the motorcycle was like just pushing my safety enough and a new skill where I had to use a different part of my brain. It all started to work. And, you tell people that you ride a motorcycle when you're 50 and they want to talk about this at length. So when my showrunner, again, Tia Napolitano, heard this, she immediately wrote it into the script.
no, that's funny. Yeah,
So it's like
that's
my
right.
hobby is starting to feed the art. And it's like I have to know me in order to bring part of me to the characters. So all those hobbies and all those things that I do for joy are telling me what fills my well. Then I have something for mental health when I need a break, and I know how to fill up a character because I've learned what makes me tick.
I love that. When you meet female firefighters, what are some of the things that they say to you? And do they ever give you ideas for plots?
Everybody gives us ideas for plots.
Right.
I
I'm sure
think
everybody says something, right?
everybody gives us ideas for plots, and then we turn around to the writers and give them ideas. And I see their face. They're like, okay, it's really unlikely that I could even use this, even if I wanted to. Like it's such
Right.
a process. Um, The women firefighters that I have met have been so diligent in trying to be helpful.
Mhm.
They're the only ones who don't give me plots. They're in there making sure that I understand nuances of the job. The most inspired information I ever got from one woman that I trained with a long time ago for Rescue Me. She said, if everything goes wrong inside a fire, people will try to help you. Other firefighters will try to help you. Never, ever give up your equipment. If you give up your equipment in the fire, you're a liability instead of an
Mhm.
asset. Within 6 months of that, I was snowboarding with a friend. We were on the wrong side of the mountain and we got lost in the trees. A friend is much bigger than me and kept saying, let me carry your snowboard. Let me carry your snowboard. And all I kept hearing was,
Right.
give up your equipment or you're a liability. It has
Right.
sort of stuck with me in the idea of I have to be able to take care of myself. Like no
Mhm.
one's coming to save me. There's so much mythology for women about the prince and the white horse. And just the very idea that we need someone else to come in and rescue us. I stopped looking for dad in my partners, I think
Mm,
after I had kids. Like once
mm,
I had my
that's
children,
interesting.
I was like, no, I want to be the most sufficient person I can. And that is not attractive to all females.
Right.
But the female firefighters mostly wanted to teach me how to be sufficient in a fire. So there was never a moment where you had to save the female.
Mm, I love that. And in this business that you're in, it can be hard as we age. How do you stay confident in yourself, as we kind of realize we can't turn back time as much as we would like to? How do you feel about different career opportunities as we all age? And like I said, you have the menopause storyline, and I'm not getting any younger either. So I'm just curious, like, how you see primetime television or even your role changing now that we're addressing things like menopause and just in general aging in Hollywood, which can't always be an easy place.
I don't think aging is easy in any job, really.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I know you feel it as a
Mm,
writer.
mhm,
I know my friends that are teachers feel it. I remember
mhm,
when my father was working at the post office and they were
mm,
bringing them out.
mm,
So I think aging's hard at everything, but the one thing I've sort of come to believe is anything that I try to hide, anything that I feel shame about, that I try to put under the rug, is really loud.
mm,
So I think owning the menopause, I never hide my age. I never have. I think I
mhm,
talk about it more openly than maybe women do between 35 and 45
mhm.
because there's sort of in between archetypes, right? At
I-
55, I I am so much more vibrant than my mother got to be at 55.
mm,
My mother was 55. She talked all the time about being tired. There was,
oh,
it was really when HRT was considered bad for you,
mm,
that we were all going to get breast cancer, which has, of course, been
yeah.
completely debunked now.
Mhm.
But um, I think society told her she was tired and it was over and that she should be looking to just be prone from here
Right.
on
Oh,
in.
wow. Right. Things have changed so much, like for our generation. It really has.
Yeah. So I feel like owning
Mhm,
my own age, one of the last things I do to
mhm,
hide my age or to change it is
mhm.
color my hair. And I have to color it
Same.
so I
Mhm.
have to
Same.
color it so often now.
Mhm.
I'm really looking at like, could I let it be that cool gray that I see
Right, right. It's
faces?
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know
funny you
yet.
say that because I always say, like, I actually started turning gray like in my 30s, and I was like, oh my God. And
Yay!
I color my hair all the time. And I said, this is my biggest secret. I am all gray. And I thought, I just can't be one of those cool women with the cool silvery gray hair. It's funny you said that. I had the same thought recently, but I love that. And it's when I also always say, too many people went to high school with me. Like if I ever tried to lie about my age, someone's gonna whip out a yearbook and like send it to us weekly and be like, no, she graduated this year. Like I could never either. Like it's like I'm 45, it is what it is. Like I can't hide. I'm in too many yearbooks, that's how I
Yes.
see it, but
I
it's true.
know.
Now you've also worked as a writer. Like you also wrote a book, obviously a novel, and you've written articles. You've written for Cosmo and Esquire and other articles. Are you working on anything at the moment, editorially, or another novel, perhaps?
Because I use the writing almost like a rinse from acting, and then I
Mhm,
use acting as a rinse from writing. When you're on set and there's 200 people and you're
mhm,
talking all day long, and it's such a collaborative environment, you're not
mhm,
ever making the decisions alone. It affects the person in your scene, and then it affects the director and the camera person. So I get to a place where I really just want to be alone with my own thoughts, and that's what
mhm,
the writing is for. And then of course I start to hate my own thoughts when left
mhm,
alone with them for too long. At the moment, I have been writing news articles for like the last 2 years, and there's probably one a month for different magazines on just really wide topics. Every season when we start, I write down 10 pitches that I'd like to place about really different subjects. One this year is about to take the bucket list trip with my octogenarian dad or
mhm.
not.
Right.
And one is how do I want to decorate my house so it's not cluttered? So I like fine tuning my voice. I think my whole thing has been asking truthful questions about our culture. Like, should they be a norm anymore? Exactly what you're doing here with menopause and aging.
Yeah.
I like the line where culture can be pushed to allow a little bit more in.
I love that. And just kind of my final question for you in wrapping up. What can we see next? Can you give us any spoilers on what we can expect from the future of Fire Country? Any spoilers on what we can expect that's going to happen or any storylines? I've seen a few episodes. I want to keep going for sure.
The love stories on Fire Country in season 3 all go a little crazy by the end of the
Wow.
season.
Even Sharon's storyline?
Um, I am hoping Sharon and
Okay.
Vince will be the last married couple standing on network television.
Yeah,
But
that's
everybody
amazing.
gets a little crazy by the end. So that's going to be fun to see where they go.
I love that. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Okay, thank you, Rachel.
Thanks. Have a great night. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks for tuning into Talking Points with Preferred Health Magazine. For more on Diane Farr, visit our website, preferredhealthmagazine.com. Until next time, stay healthy and live in gratitude.